Welcome back to the Pro Football Doc podcast, part two, and we'll get to the injury rundown here. And first of all, with the injury rundown, let's talk about, once again, go to ProFootballDoc.com. You'll get the latest updates. For example, DJ Chark, I do think he'll be back, and he's not in danger of missing the start of the season, even with his finger fracture. And all the injury index analysis, players, team search videos, lots of new features on here, and it's free. No spamming, no credit card required. Couldn't be any better than that. So now that the season started, let's run through here. So look, the season's here. We had Jay Glazer on talking about Dak, talking about Carson Wentz in a pregame report. It's good to see football back, Hall of Fame game. A couple of different things, though, in terms of what's going to happen this year. Remember, this year is going to be a little different, and it's going to be a little different because there's only 3 preseason games, and that's a big deal because how will teams handle that? Usually the 3rd preseason game was the one where the starters played. There's no 4th preseason game now, but there's the same gap. So is the 3rd preseason game now going to be treated like the 4th, or will it be treated like the old 3rd preseason game since there's a 2-week gap? So that's something to consider as you look at teams and try and make your prognostications, not only if you're trying to wager preseason, but more in terms of setting lineups and what to expect and watching and so forth. That's an access difference this year. Much different, first time ever, so we'll see how that works. So let's do our rundown here. First thing, since we talked about Dak a little bit and Amari, first of all, Dak Prescott is not, obviously Dak Prescott ended up being a bigger deal than we thought, right? That's what we said. He's still out right now. They've consulted with the Texas Rangers, makes sense. It's a throwing injury. Latissimus dorsi strain. It was much more than fatigue. Dak will be ready for the start of the season. I'm not worried. It's just when does he start to throw in practice again is the question. And clearly it was more than a non-issue or day-to-day thing, but he will be back. I'm not worried. I'm much more worried about Amari Cooper, as I've said in this video as well. Definitely more worried about Amari Cooper. We detail at the website, ProFootballDoc.com. You can see these videos at the website as well. And the reason why is Amari Cooper had January surgery on his ankle, supposed to be a 6-week return recovery timeline for the cleanup. At 6 months, still had bone inflammation and other issues. So if at 6 months he's got bone inflammation, what's to say at 7 months that he's now 100%? Not likely. I think he's going to make it this year. I think he's going to play week 1, but I think he's going to have to deal with the after effects of the ankle soreness. I don't think it's going to go away. I think he's going to need to play with it and play through it as opposed to get to 100%. So I'm not saying Amari won't play. I'm just saying I'm more concerned about Amari. In the fantasy world, is CeeDee Lamb the play? I have entered into the fantasy world this year. Last year was my first time. Now I'm in three different leagues. I got drug into that, and I appreciate it. Bull, Warrior Bowl, and Scott Fish Bowl 11. And it'll be fun. I don't know how well I'll do, but I kind of like CeeDee Lamb for that reason. And by the way, the preseason injury preview is already up for the Cowboys. The NFC will be up soon, and then followed by the AFC. Once again, log in to ProFootballDoc.com to get it for free. And it's a live document. In other words, we will update it as we go and as we move along. So that's our Amari Cooper concern, et cetera, that we've been talking about. And Saquon off PUP. So what does that mean? Like we just talked about in the first half, that means he passed a physical. That means he can practice with the team. That does not mean he's 100%. This makes him eligible to play week 1, does not guarantee that he will. And even if he does, does not guarantee 20 touches or that he's 100%. I'm not hating on Saquon. I think he's doing very well. But, if you really look closely, there's some atrophy difference still. And as great as of an athlete as he is, 90% of Saquon's pretty darn good, but I just don't think he's 100% yet. That's the story on Saquon. And we talked about Saquon. Nothing's changed in some of the videos about Saquon. Look, recovery is not like a light switch. It's more a very slow sunrise. You can't tell me that yesterday when he was on PUP, he wasn't ready to go. And today he's off PUP and he's 100% ready to go. It's a gradual process. And good signs, good news, headed in the right direction. Whether he plays week 1 or not, I don't know yet, but I can tell you he will not be 100% week 1. He'll get better and better and stronger as the season comes along. Next up, preseason, Justin Jefferson. And we actually got some video here on Justin Jefferson. He was tweeted this video by many people. Justin Jefferson coming in on the side there and lands on his left shoulder. And the good news here is that we thought it was an AC joint injury, and it turned out immediately afterwards it was. And that's why we say go to ProFootballDoc.com. We actually posted it there first, and before even tweeting it, because we want our database there. The idea is a couple-week issue with an AC joint sprain ready before the regular season. The Vikings did sign another wide receiver just to take reps. And shortly, concurrently or thereafter, I wasn't timing it, Adam Schefter confirmed that news. So that's how fast we're getting now. An injury happens a few minutes ago. We're getting it up. We're looking at it. We've got video of it. And boom, Adam comes up with the results already, even though it's preseason. So strong work there. But like I said, go to ProFootballDoc.com to see it all. Next up on the injury rundown, Bud Dupree passes his colon off of PUP. Same thing. Doesn't mean that he's 100%. I think the Titans, he's coming along nicely. But last time we analyzed video here, he was not 100%. And all I'm saying now, he still isn't. He's practicing. He's worked his way back into it. And I think the Titans will preferentially use him on the right side of the defense because it was his right knee, so he can have a healthy left knee on the outside, which is most important for a pass rusher. But he's coming along nicely. Next up, Curtis Samuel is off of the COVID list, but they still have him on PUP for his groin. And there's no timetable yet on Curtis Samuel for his groin. The hope is just a mild groin strain and he'll make it back. No time frame yet. Hopefully this doesn't go down the road of core muscle surgery. Don't have any indication of that yet, but no timetable on Curtis Samuel yet. In the preseason, not a lot of information sometimes. AJ Green out with a, quote, minor issue. And Coach Cliff Kingsbury says he's back sooner than later, but he won't provide any details because it's preseason. You don't need to provide an injury report until Wednesday before the first games. Anything is voluntary right now. There doesn't need to be any injury information out there. So coaches are taking advantage. In some ways, it makes my job harder to analyze. In some ways, it makes it more interesting because there's no information out there. So whatever detective work that we do might be helpful to fans and also players as fantasy draft season is basically here. Next up, Tyree Kill seems to be a very minor case of tendonitis. The key is to not make it into a chronic case. He just missed a day or two in his back. So hopefully it remains nothing for Tyree Kill. But once again, very little information to go on. Kenny Golladay exited practice, and we had video of it from Jordan Ronan. It looked like a minor hamstring strain. And here's another example where this is what gets posted at Pro Football Doc, that it's a minor hamstring strain, etc. And that was later confirmed by Dan Dugan, beat reporter for the Giants, a good reporter, that not considered significant, more tests, but he should be, he'll be back before the regular season is underway. Of course, he won't get a chance to work as much with his new quarterback, Daniel Jones. Nick Bosa, currently his head coach, Mike Shanahan, is saying we expect him week 1. Shanahan's honest, Coach Shanahan. He's honest, Kyle Shanahan. He expects him week 1. You expect all players week 1. That's been the goal all along. Of course, that's the goal. He did not say he would be 100% week 1. And that I can tell you, it's hard to speed up biology. Looks like Nick Bosa is doing well, will be effective. They can plan out how to use him in different ways to take advantage and protect the knee, the ACL that he's coming off of. Won't be 100%, but 95% Nick Bosa is pretty good. And we'll talk about that in the preseason injury preview again. More rundown here. Let's get to some fun little things before we get to the videos of the week here. Phillip Rivers, I got asked about this on air, about his return, especially with Carson Wentz. Here's the thing. Phillip, I don't see Phillip going to Indy now. And I think he's now confirmed that for a couple reasons. Carson Wentz's injury is short term. I think he's going to miss some time, but I think he's going to come back in October. Hopefully early October, but no worse than late October. Phillip Rivers loves football and family. He really loves it. But that's actually why I don't see him coming back right now. Because he loves football and he's getting his football in the form of high school football as he's coaching. Believe me, he's all in on that. I mean, just in the whole deal. After high school football season is done, if there's a late season need, maybe he'll go out and join a team in the right circumstance. And I think that's what he's saying. I don't think he's moving his family again like last time in Indy. And, or so he can travel back and forth and get family life in order without disrupting his kids. He loves football and family, and I don't think he's going to go against that. Part of loving football is loving the NFL, but right now I think he's getting his fix in high school. The only way I see it working, if it's the perfect circumstance, his assistant coaches beg him to go, his players, including the seniors, I know this is his first year coaching, but seniors still mean something, tell him, Coach, we want you to go and take this opportunity. That's the only way I see him. But I think it's more of a late season ad at this point in time, if anything. And since we're talking name quarterbacks, I thought this was interesting, and I don't know why more wasn't made of this. From Tom Brady, Forbes average value of NFL franchises up 14% despite revenue drop, salary cap dropped by 20%, and the day after, the new media deals were announced at more money. So it's just an interesting point. We see him, at the Hall of Fame induction with Peyton. Tom Brady's a great ambassador, but I'm surprised this did more traction out there, or maybe it did. So once again, ProFootballDoc.com, things are live there, etc. But this is what I was talking about, the preseason schedule. This is week 3. Remember, Hall of Fame, 1 game, week 1, week 2, week 3, that's it. But note, week 3 is in the usual week 3 time slot. There's a week off, and then one of the NFL starts in a normal way. All right, let's move on to a little bit of a few other sports and baseball and other things before we sort of wrap things up here. Oh, before we get to baseball, this was good to hear, and you guys heard it here first on the podcast. Christian Eriksen, he is the Danish soccer player who had the heart issue, passed out on the field and resuscitated. And right after that, we talked on the podcast, and there were people saying, and doctors saying, and soccer doctors saying his career is done. And I said, not so fast. Make the diagnosis depends on what the heart issue was. And it does look like he's returning to his club and starting to train. So hopefully he's passed all tests and will do so safely. They saved his life, and hopefully they can put him on the right meds or make the right adjustments if he wants to play, to have him safely play. Tatis is the other big story in San Diego for sure. Fifth time dislocation of the shoulder, admitted now that he will need surgery. We talked about it at the beginning of the baseball season, how surgery was a matter of when, not if. Now he's being moved to the outfield, maybe. That's interesting. I don't doubt that he can do it because, look, he changed his swing and he's still hitting home runs because of his shoulder. He changed his swing. But I don't love the additional risk of an unfamiliar position. And you can't throttle this kid in. He's the Matrix. You know, he really does all these crazy things. I just don't, and I don't see him not diving for a ball. And if it's on a full speed run, there might be risk of more damage. And quite honestly, if surgery is, if it's that bad that he's got to move positions, maybe you should think about surgery. Interesting though, on my Twitter poll, more than half of you thought he should keep going and keep playing. There's no right answer. And on a sided poll, a bit of the majority said shut him down. So I don't know what that really means, but it is what it is. It's a tough consideration, right? And I'm not being critical of the Padres or whatever. To play or not to play is a tough consideration. The only way that I see that they'll change, they're going to bring him back, whether in the outfield or shortstop, I don't know, but is if A, he has more damage and increased risk of permanent damage. B, he starts to not play well because of the shoulder, which I actually don't see happening. Or C, the Padres are out of it mathematically or out of playoff contention, but they are right now. All right, let's move on again here. This is just for fun. I thought this was worth everyone seeing. Entertaining interview, I'll say this, I'll let it play.
Well, normally what I do is I'll get two venti. I go to, Starbucks, I get two venti of the pipe with 2 shots in it. So black eye in both. That's what I come in with. That's how I start the day. So, normally.
Well, that explains all his great quotes, right? I mean, biting off kneecaps and this, that, the other. He starts the day with that. That's the equivalent of 8 cups of coffee is how he starts the day. I see how that man finishes the day. Look, he's entertaining, that's for sure. I hope he can be successful because he is an entertaining quote machine. That is for sure. But let me tell you, with that amount of caffeine, you would actually fail. He would actually fail a performance enhancement test. There are limits to the amount of caffeine a player can have in their system. I guarantee you 8 cups of coffee would make you fail. You could have 1 or 2 cups of coffee and be okay, but it's interesting that that would be considered performance enhancement in the NFL for a player to do that. But this coach does it regularly. He is entertaining. The final thing that we're going to do is this video, and it is soccer video, but take a look here. It's pretty gruesome right ankle sprain. As he takes a long step, the ball hits his foot, turns it, and he lands and completely turns that. We don't have final word yet, but my belief is that it's just a bad ankle sprain and no fracture. He was able to hobble off the field. But that's the difference between an inversion ankle sprain and a Dak Prescott eversion ankle sprain / fracture as he returns this year. All right. Thanks again for watching Pro Football Doc podcast. Go to ProFootballDoc.com for the latest info. We covered PUP today. Fantasy drafts are basically here. Our preseason injury preview is up for some teams already, soon to be up for NFC and then the AFC. And it will be a living document where we keep updating it. So that's why you want to go to the website to see that for free. Appreciate you all. Excited the season is here. Thanks for watching Pro Football Doc podcast.